Hey, what's the deal, Raw Dogs? It's where the T-Man, your man, coming at you with another off-the-cuff video on this episode of Off the Sea. So, the Razer Phone 2 has been confirmed and could launch this year. My guess is it's going to be very similar to a situation like last year where they announced the Razer Phone 2 at an event sometime in October, and then they'll release it a month later, like officially start shipping it, and it could be in your hands by the end of this year. So, very excited about this news because I am an adopter of the first Razer phone. Now, I reviewed this with a 1 month review last year after using this for a good while, and I think that a lot of people like that video a lot. Actually, it seems like I think a lot of people are kind of more casual users, and so when other people were reviewing this phone, they were looking at it from the angle of things like waterproofness. They were looking at how bright the screen was, and they were kind of looking at it from a very different perspective than someone like me would look at it. And for me, I knew it was good for me. It had the best speakers, it had the fastest screen refresh rate, and it was good for a developer, and it had strong wireless, very good for a gamer. And so all those things, it hit all the notches for me, and because of that, I'm very as excited for the next phone as I am for this one. Now, I'm not going to upgrade because I'm just a regular consumer. I'm not an actual like full-on reviewer here. So for me, I'm going to stick to this phone while it's still good, and I still love this phone, to be honest, and I don't see any need to upgrade. But what I am excited about as well is maybe the potential for peripherals, because if you look at the Razer Phone 2, you can see that these are kind of official renders that came out for it. And you'll also notice that the logo on the back is not the silver kind, but it's rather the limited edition color. Now, when you look at that, you have to ask yourself, is that glowing green, or is it just green, as in like an indented kind of sticker kind of green? My guess, by looking at it, is it may just be a sticker, kind of similar to how it was here. But then there are uh, some ideas floating around, some hints that the Razer Phone 2 may have these chroma effects for notifications, kind of like you do on the phone. So I have one of these I have one of these keyboards. Mine's the Razer Ornata. I like that keyboard. It's kind of the perfect mix between kind of like a MacBook laptop keyboard with kind of like a shorter switches, but also being very tactile, very functional. And one of the things about the chroma effect are that you can program it. So what's going on in the Razer phone that they would kind of suspect that it would have chroma effects? My guess is if you look at the renders here, I'm not sure if it's a render or a photo. I think it's a render though. But if you look at this render of the Razer Phone 2, you can see that it looks very similar, maybe indistinguishable from the first Razer phone. But if you put it next to the first Razer phone, you'll see that there are slight changes. For example, the Razer Phone 2 is just maybe a millimeter wider on each side, and you're gonna wonder why that is. What is going on there? Is it just a render that's just looking that way, and maybe it's exactly the same size? I hope it's the same size, but when you wonder about this extra length, it's not just a millimeter in the width of the object. Rather, it could well, it's more than a millimeter now that I'm looking at it, but you also notice that there's a bezel that's increased around the screen, and so that to me indicates that there could be some LED lighting going around the screen. So next time you get notifications on your Razer Phone 2, you could have lighted up effects either rotating or maybe just a singular color just flashing, and that would be very interesting, to be honest. I don't know if that was truly a necessary feature, but it's something that people asked for, and I think when people asked for it, they really just wanted the back logo to light up, and that could still happen. That could still be the case, but I'm a little, I feel it's a little bit maybe unnecessary. I hope it didn't cause the Razer phone to become bigger, but that could be the case. So looking at this, you'll also notice that the lenses on the front are in a slightly different, and then the speaker grill also has different sized holes. Now that could be a render thing, but I think it is probably more accurate to the actual phone. You'll also notice that height-wise, it seems like the grill is smaller on both sides as well. So it's not, we're not talking like an exact, the exact same size here. Now, once again, I gotta emphasize, it may be just a render issue. It could be the same size, but I'm willing to bet it is different. So When you look at this, you have a different wallpaper compared to this one, and so they really want you to know that the phone is not the same, and you have to look closer. The buttons also seem bigger in terms of the volume button, but when you look at here, another noticeable difference is the camera in the back, which is moved to the center. And so why would they move it to the center? Personally, I don't like the look of the camera in the center. I don't like centered objects, and I especially don't like how they doubled up on the centered object by moving the, I would say I think it's a flash, moving that to the center, because in my opinion, centered objects just kind of look funny. I just don't like the Cyclops look of them. And so I'm really hoping that's not final, but this is, I think it's from a reputable source, so it probably could be. There's also it looks like it pops out once again, just like this one kind of pops out a little bit. It's a slightly like raised. It seems to be happening here again. So basically, all your old cases are gonna be you're gonna have to buy new cases for your Razer phone, and that's a little bit sad for me. But it's interesting that they continue to put the camera in the same position on the front side. So I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. Because if they're going to center the camera in the back, why not center the camera in the front? Maybe they're doing something, or maybe it's the same issue with the thumbs. You're meant to hold the Razer phone like this. So maybe they haven't switched the problem that I mentioned in my 1-month review about the speakers being permanently oriented landscape left instead of landscape right. I'm not sure actually. I know that when you play any game, by default, it's going to go like this. And so the camera's going to be on this side, and your thumb's going to be covering it up. Now, the people who made the Razer phone want you to use it this way, which is counterintuitive from the norm. So that's kind of something that worried me a little bit, because what that really means is that they were kind of a little bit lazy, because these speakers, one is the left speaker and one is the right speaker. And when you have the camera up like that, you know that the speaker from the right side is coming to this ear, and it's spatial. And so, and forget what I just said about which ear it comes to, but just the idea is that the speakers are oriented this way for a reason. And I'm afraid that something is going to happen again. And it looks like it's the same case here with the volume buttons being on the same side. It doesn't look like they're really showing anything having to do with the fingerprint sensor, but my guess is it's a similar thing, and they haven't really changed much there. So the initial specs are not really shown, but people are saying that probably it might get the same screen, but a lot of people are hoping for an OLED screen, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen, because it's not really something that people really cared about that much. People who bought the phone really cared about. Everyone would love a brighter screen, especially if you're using this outdoors. So I do hope they do put an OLED in there. And the IGZO display can support OLED, and so hopefully they just stick an OLED screen in there instead of whatever the IPS LCD they're using is. And then hopefully they bumped up the processor as well. And so that's pretty much all we know about this thing so far. You'll get chroma LED effects built in. They've changed the design on the back, and they've moved the camera to the center, and the design overall is slightly different. I'm so sorry, I keep scrolling my mouse too high and pulling down the bar, but it looks like there's some subtle differences. And I don't know if I like the bezel being bigger in the black area, but maybe it's not going to be as noticeable. But I do not really want an LED to be on the front display, showing up, lighting up whenever there's notifications. Some people will probably like this. They'll think it's cool. It'll be quintessentially Razer. But for me, I know that there wasn't... It's been more than 1 month since I've done my 1-month review and so I know all the issues with this phone. One of them being that when you updated to Oreo, the speakers weren't as loud as they used to be. And I know how loud they were because I remember putting up Christmas lights and trucks going by and not being able to drown these speakers out. But now they're not as loud as they used to be since the Oreo update and the Razer phone updates, firmware updates. So that's one thing that they really have to make sure they get right, because the great thing about this was the speakers were really loud, and they need to get it back to that loudness, or else it's just not going to have the same appeal. I'm wondering if I should even, like, if I could downgrade the firmware. I mean, I might even be tempted to do that, just to get this thing back to the proper volume levels, because I'm finding that even if I max it out now, it's not as loud as I want it to be. And the other issue is, once again, the fingerprint scanner wasn't working as well for me. Another thing I wanted to mention is there was an issue having to do with, well, obviously I did already mention this, but the LCD isn't as bright as you would want it to be when you're working outside. And I've worked outside a lot this summer. I've done a lot of garden work, and let me tell you, I would like to have a brighter screen. There was another issue that was kind of on the back of my mind, but it's not coming out right now. I think it had to do with no, I can't recall right now. Oh yeah, I do remember. So when the phone recharges and gets up to 100%, and you have it plugged in at night, and I have my my room, when at night it goes pitch black, and that's the way we like it. But something that happens when this phone reaches 100% is that the screen seems to randomly come on and just stay on, and so it's almost like you can't charge it overnight if you don't want to be woken up by the screen turning on. And I hope that's not something that's going to happen with these LED notifications. There is a do not disturb mode that I use frequently. I set it for a certain time. Anything after 11, anything before 5, I do not let the phone wake me up. And it doesn't seem to affect the LCD, and I don't know why, but I think it has to do with charging. And so those are another issues that I've noticed with the phone. I hope they iron that out in software updates. But my guess is a lot of this stuff is already concrete. A lot of the decisions have already been made. Now I want to talk about, because people appreciated my 1 month review, which really gave, if you were a casual user, you probably wouldn't have even thought about a lot of the ways that I used it. But I didn't think that was something that might have been relevant to regular people. I just thought that I was speaking to my people, kind of tech people who are kind of like saying, hey, how does this work with this, and this? And so peripherals are something that's really important to me. And for me, Project Linda never came out, and that was a huge letdown, because I'm looking to not really invest in another laptop. But I would like to have something that I could bring with me for travel, like a little clamshell that I could kind of stick my phone into and use as a laptop, that I can use with Sentio, or just stuff like that. And I know that it's possible, but something that I'm hoping for with the Razer Phone 2 is that Project Linda does come out. And because the design of the Razer Phone 2 is so similar to Razer Phone 1, I'm hoping there's some backwards compatibility there. Now, I know that when Project Linda came out, they had to put in some hardware for it to work. So they weren't using our normal Razer phone, I think. And so with the Project Linda, I'm hoping that they've kind of worked out the kinks, because I do know, because I've hooked this up to a display monitor, and I've hooked it up to a keyboard, and I know that you can do both at the same time. And so I'm hoping that even there's some functionality there. My guess is the missing functionality would be the battery charging. If they did come out with Project Linda, and it would work perfectly fine with Razer Phone 2, let's just presume. But for Razer Phone 1, if you wanted backwards compatibility, you probably wouldn't get battery charging. That's just my guess about what's going on, because I had issues with battery charging and how it kind of killed peripherals. And so I would say, yeah, probably a hope I have is that there would be some backwards compatibility. And all I really want is the screen and keyboard. I don't care if it doesn't charge. I don't think you need to use the battery in that respect. But who knows? I wonder if there's going to be issues there, because it is just one jack that you have here on the bottom, just one USB-C port. And it's not like you're going to be able to just switch off part of the function. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for now. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment box down below. And finally, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And then I'll see you again next time.